Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching in the world. My name is Sean Driver, and we are halfway through the Who Are Ya? Do We Hate Ya series. This time, the 12th version. We've got 11 games. We did an extra one for Bradford. Up now, the Mansfield Town FC Stags. So the question is... And let's get into it. These Tuesday games, so much going on, coming in late, coming in hot, but it is what it is. As we just said, Mansfield Town FC, you'd hope Mansfield Town, they're from a town called Mansfield, and they are from Mansfield, Nottinghamshire, population 110,500. Field Mill Ground, also known for sponsorship reasons, is One Call Stadium. Opened before 1861, and so it comes with the title of being the oldest ground in the Football League. Now, there is some argument out there. Some say it's Bramall Lane. I'm not going to get into that debate. Doesn't really matter for our purposes, but if it's not the oldest, it's one of two. Capacity, 9,186 last year. Their average attendance, 6,696, which put them 6th in League Two. Distance away from the racecourse, 97 miles or 156 kilometers if you're hopping in the car for a trip. That's 2 hours and 5 minutes. Turnover, well, this was a weird one. They actually have some capital filings in the company house, but I could not, for the life of me, discern what the turnover was from the records that were there. So seems to be one of those ever-present sort of issues that teams seem to be able to get away with, or they elect not to share that information openly. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's unintentional. I don't know if it's just my incapacity to figure out the answer. Jumping into the history then, Mansfield Town, formed in 1897 as the Mansfield Wesleyans, which is made it a church-related amateur club. It eventually dropped its amateur tag. You can do the math. 1897 when created. That was well after 1861 when the Field Mill Ground started. So they weren't the first team there. They sort of had their amateur status, and they ended up, after 1910, losing their relationship to the church, becoming a non-amateur club, and away they went. They changed their name to Mansfield Town in 1910. Not the first club to have the name Mansfield Town, and actually not even the second who wanted to have the name Mansfield Town, but they've got it and have since 1910. So they moved to Field Mill after World War I. They failed in their bids to get elected to the Football League on an ongoing basis until 1931. And at that point, they were brought into the 3rd Division South of the EFL, replacing Newport County that wasn't re-elected that year. They've won some championships, 3rd-tier champions in 1976-77, 4th-tier champions in 1974-75, 5th-tier conference champions 2012, 2013, and since the start of the club, they've had 4 other promotions through 3rd and 4th place finishes. As for major cups, they have won the Associate Members Cup, which, as I understand, was the former name for the Football League trophy, and that happened in 86-87. I'm going to talk about the kit here. Odd that I'm going to start with maybe the creator, the producer of the kit first, Castor, which is a sportswear manufacturer in Manchester. Have to admit that I'm a way bigger fan of the previous Sunridge sets than what Castor has been able to spit out this year in their first year. Traditional yellow and blue at home, okay, that's fine. The new melon away, though, is that what we call that color? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what that's about. Not part of their history. It's not that I have an issue with the color. It just doesn't seem to make any sense or have any relationship to the club. I don't get that. It's odd too, because I think the quality of them, at least looking through the photographs, it looks a little bit bush league compared to others, and compared to others that Castor makes. They've got kits from Aston Villa and Rangers, Bayer Leverkusen, and I don't have any issue with those ones. It just looks like Mansfield Town got kind of jobbed in the production. I don't like these jerseys. I like the yellow and blue one. Historically, that's a great one, but the other ones, I don't get it. Anyways, booking odds, 5th place at the start of the year was where Mansfield Town was expected to place. That puts them as a top 3rd club, and really they're, I guess, exactly where you'd expect them to be. 5th place. Still in the EFL Cup as the only League Two team still alive in the EFL Cup through to the round of 16. They're going to be taking on Port Vale in the next round after they took out Grimsby Town. They took out the championship cellar dwellers in Sheffield Wednesday in penalties. They've taken out League One Peterborough in pens after an extra time equalizer. In the EFL Trophy, they're in a group with Doncaster, Burton Albion, and Everton's U21, and they're yet to play. Probably a little bit, I think the word is leggy, and so maybe hopefully we can take advantage of that in the sense that they've had a lot of games coming and they've got a lot of games in the not too distant future. As far as the league goes, record 4 wins, 6 draws, and 0 losses. One of only 5 teams in the EFL, right from the top down to the bottom, who haven't lost a league competition game this season. Going through then and looking at their last 5 games, and something interesting looking at their games, that they've only played 2 teams that are near the top of the table when it comes to goals for, that being Crewe and Stockport. The rest, those are teams that don't necessarily have that sort of shock and awe, go for it mentality. It'll be interesting to see how that matches up, but looking at their last 5 games, starting with their most recent game then, Gillingham, that was a 1-1 draw away. Gillingham with 9 goals for, and obviously we know near the top of the table because they're great defensively as well. They were a full goal behind in expected goals per 90 minutes, which is interesting because they were even in shots and they led in shots on target, led in possession, led in big chances. So I don't quite understand how that expected goals per 90 ends up not favoring Mansfield in that one. But in any event, it looks like it was a fair result. The coach intimated that that was the first game, and this was the interview he provided just before, just today actually, before the match with Wrexham, and intimated that that was the first game that they had where there was a mistake that led to a goal. And if that's true, that's fascinating, I think, because as we're well aware, there have been, you would expect there to be lots of mistakes, or at least a couple of mistakes that would lead to goals, but maybe they're just operating like a well-oiled machine. We shall see. Their second last game, that was a 1-0 win at home to Barrow. That's a team with 11 goals for. That was a deserved result, not much to say. They led in possession by a lot, passes by nearly doubled, total shots and corners, and so that was clearly an appropriate win. Their third game, a 1-1 draw away to Colchester, who has 15 goals for. Again, another game where they had crushing possession stats, 69% to 31% for Colchester, but they actually ended up behind in shots and big chances, you know, just barely, but still behind, and required a late equalizer in extra time in order to make that a draw. But it looks overall as though that was a fair result. The four games ago, that was against Accrington Stanley with their 14 goals for. It was a 3-0 win at home for Mansfield. Maybe a bit fortunate from the stats that it was 3-0. They were behind in possession, behind in total shots. They did have more of their shots on target, but it looks to be a fairly close to equal match, maybe a 1-0 win for Mansfield Town, but it looks like their style of play is take care of the back end and don't let anything bias, and hope that you're able to get one. And in that one against Accrington Stanley, they were able to get 3. And then 5 games ago, a 0-0 draw at home to Bradford. Ew, boring, gross. Anyway, fairly equal match, near even on all categories. Not much to talk about. A 0-0 draw is a 0-0 draw, and on we go. So, looking at their stats for the season, though, best goals against in the league, tied with Gillingham and with Barrow. As we said, interesting that of the 10 games so far, only 2 of the games are with teams in the top 10 in goals for. 6 against teams that are in the lowest for their goals for, so it's hard to predict how they're going to perform against high-flying offensive teams, and that's what they've got to deal with. Wrexham, call it 2 different contrasting styles. Lots of offense, not a lot of defense, versus lots of defense, not a lot of offense. Here's the rest of the stats. You can see lots of green that's set up there as far as their expected goals for, what they are scoring, their conceded, their possession. They're top team defensively, top team in the league. You'd expect nothing more from that. Last match with Wrexham, going again using wrexamarchive.co.uk. I haven't plugged them in a while in these videos, so I just want to make sure if you haven't been to Wrexham, afcarchive.co.uk, go there. They've got all of the stats. Totally informative, amazing, impressive website. That was their last game, April 20th, 2013. That was in the National League. A 0-1 loss for Wrexham away in front of 6,394 people. That was the year that Mansfield won the league and Wrexham lost in a playoff final to Newport County 2-0. Connections to Wrexham, well, in a Wrexham jersey, and we'll get to the player who's in the Mansfield jersey later on, but for Wrexham players a decade ago, Ollie Palmer, who seems to have played with almost everybody, started his run with Mansfield Town, playing in 54 games, and he added 5 goals during that period. Last season performance, 8th place, heartache, 21 wins, 12 draws, 13 losses, 75 points, and 1 point out of the playoffs, 1 goal behind on goal difference to Salford City. There was a loss to Harrogate at home, 2-1 on the second last day of the season. That really put them behind, and that had to be a painful one given where Harrogate Town was in the standings. They had 28 shots, 65% possession, 230 more passes, 6 more corners, and just couldn't get the job done at home and didn't have the answer. So that had to hurt, especially when playoff winner Carlisle United went into the playoffs just 1 point ahead of them. And Carlisle United went in on a bad run of form, just winning once in their last 6 games. But were able to get in, much to the chagrin of Mansfield and much as a result of Mansfield Town's struggles against Harrogate, and sort of given one away that you would have expected that they took at home. Anyway, that's last season. Turning to the gaffer, 57-year-old Nigel Clough on his 5th team. Since he started with Burton Albion in 1998, I believe that was, 99. Anyways, around about 11 years. He played in the Premier League as a forward midfielder. He's the son of Brian Clough, who is a winner of the top tier, the Premier League, the top division, whatever you want to call it, going back historically as a manager for both Derby County and Nottingham Forest. And I think that makes him one of 4 managers who have won the top crown for 2 different clubs. So he's been manager since, this is Nigel again, been manager since November 2020. He's got an impressive 71 wins, 44 draws, 46 loss record. That put them in the playoff final in 21-22, and then obviously we just said they missed the playoffs last year. Heartache. Players going to focus on the 7 players who've played over 600 minutes in the league so far, but there's a lot of players, 8 of them, that have at least 300 minutes, and so you expect lots of roster options, and I don't know exactly where it's going to go. Looking at the forwards, Lucas Akins, 34, he's a Granada international, 896 minutes, 2 goals. He came over, it's January 2022 window from Burton Albion, and there's something to be said about Burton Albion and their players coming over, whether that's a connection with Nigel, whether that's otherwise, I don't know, but we'll see that trend. 4 shots, 2 on target, 2 goals. Not really his role to be a scorer, set up more on the right wing and there for the assists. But anyways, I brought his stats up, and not really much to look at there when you look at what his expected assists are going to be, what his pass completion rate is, what his cross successes are. Lots to be desired there, especially just to compare him to Barnett, who plays in a similar role down that right side, and you see the assists there. Well, Barnett's got 1, but more importantly, look at those passes and crosses and successful crosses numbers, much higher per game, sort of maybe more what you'd expect. But as you'll see when we go through the stats here, not a lot of crosses from Mansfield Town. Davis Keillor-Dunn then, 25-year-old attacking midfielder, 847 minutes. He's got 8 goals and an assist in 10 games. He's the player with the Rexam connection that I was speaking of earlier. He had 6 games in the 2019-2020 season before transferring out. And then as of the January window last year, coming again, another player from Burton Albion who came over in League One. He is scoring at a rate that is way higher than his historical average. He's usually at 0.25 goals per game. He's now at 0.85 goals per game, so I don't know if he's just found the sauce, the magic, while he's been at Mansfield Town or something different, but you take a look at his offensive stats, and 24 shots taken, 2.01 shots on target per game. He's got an amazing shot conversion rate, shot accuracy is up through the roof, and so Keillor-Dunn really getting it done as far as the offensive stats are concerned. Also going to take the opportunity to look at his passing stats. And I said earlier 8 goals, 1 assist. Let's correct that. I made a mistake. 8 goals, 2 assists. Even more impressive. And you look at his numbers there, with the passes, successful passes a little bit lower. You'd maybe expect that from somebody who's not just an attacking midfielder, but also playing up front, obviously closer to the net and scoring the goals. You'd expect a little bit of a layoff with those passes and successful passes, but he's in the mix all over the place, all over the net, and looks to be the guy that's going to have to be shut down. And if you're able to get him under control, then you've certainly got a chance of winning this one as we go through things. Who else to potentially expect up front? You've got Jordan Bowery, 32, 700 minutes, 130 games since 2020 with Mansfield Town. And you're starting to see a pattern here. We're going to see a pattern as we look through his stats. Well above average success in passing. This seems to be a team where collectively, when you look at them and you look at their passing stats, it's one that goes direct. It's a team that doesn't necessarily cross as much as most teams. They seem to be looking for a way to beat you through the passing on the ground and their play forward, rather than lobbing things into the box and searching it through the air. That's a weakness of Wrexham, so we'll have to see how they deal with that. It's the men coming at us that's the problem. It's not the ball getting lobbed over top. We've been able to handle that all right. So we'll see how it plays out. But Bowery's stats, as you can see, his pass completion rate, a little bit lower, key passes. He's one of the only players that's got crosses and successful crosses sort of near the top with 77th and 80th percentile, but it's those passing 93rd percentile in passing, 89th percentile in successful passes, and that's from somebody towards the offensive end, which makes it even more impressive. So other players going to the midfield, then Lewis Reed, 26, plays as a center midfielder, 897 minutes. He's got a goal. He joined last January window from Swindon Town. Look again at the number of passes to crosses. There's a pattern here that's developing. 563 passes this year. That puts him 98th in the league, and then you go down to his crosses. He's only had 5, and that's 45th percentile. So other midfielders to anticipate: George Marris, 27, another center midfielder, 476 minutes. He's got 3 goals and assists coming from his role, and doing well there. One of the players who does lead as far as crosses go. He's in the 85th percentile, passes in the 76th percentile. The pattern seems to continue as a team, but George a little bit more as one of the players that move things through the air. So Stephen Quinn, 37, a central midfielder. Hey, another player that's signed from Burton Albion, 354 minutes, 4 assists. Again, passes 57.86 per game, 92nd percentile. He's got some crosses, though, that come in at 6.43 a game in the 97th percentile. Just as a comparison, asked for that from players. I've pulled out Luke Young here. Just have a look at his crossing stats and what you can see there. 6.94 as far as crosses in a game. That's in the 98th percentile. Contrast that to the passes, 41.29 per game at 66th percentile. And to just draw another comparison with the ones that we went over, you've got Tom O'Connor, less crosses per 90 in his versions, 2.87 is his stat, 78th percentile, but his passing even a little bit higher than that, and this actually surprised me, is he's only 82nd percentile, as I remember Tom connecting when he has had his opportunities quite a lot through the middle of the field. But the fact that he's in the 82nd percentile, when you start looking at players like Quinn in the 92nd percentile, George Marris 76th percentile, and Lewis Reed at 98th percentile, that leads me to believe that, man, there's a lot of direct play through passes and interplay that happened through that midfield in Mansfield. Defenders, Aden Flint, 34, center back, 841 minutes. He signed from Stoke City, where he'd been on loan to Sheffield Wednesday. Looking at his stats in the air, ground duels won, 99th percentile. Aerial duels won, 99th percentile. Every team we've done, this is 12 of them. There seems to be that one, in some cases, 2 center backs who just throttle everybody when it comes to duels won. Doesn't matter how it got there. Through the ground, through the air, they handle their business. And for Mansfield Town, that's Mr. Flint in that capacity. It starts to get a little bit different when you go and look around. There may be some... I'm surprised, given how strong they are defensively. There may be some opportunities. Aaron Lewis, 25, I got him listed as a midfielder, sometimes as a left back. He's had 559 minutes. He's had a goal. He's a young Welsh player who's had some under 21 appearances and played Swansea Academy. Ends up at Newport County. Was apparently offered a contract there at Newport County. Didn't take it. Ended up at Mansfield. I'm not 100% sure of his role, but I looked at his stats, and this is kind of one of those ones where you go, what's this? Ground duels won, not that great, 74th percentile. Aerial duels won, well, that's 11. So I wouldn't expect him in the back line unless he is in that left back role. It was odd looking at where he played and those details, as the stats just didn't match up. Callum McDonald, 25, another potential left back. We'll see. 605 minutes he signed over the summer from following his release from the Bristol Rovers. You look at his duels won, both ground 77th percentile, aerial duels 77th percentile. Okay, statistically, not exceptional. You'd want a little bit more from somebody in the back, but that's where it's at. And then just to compare them, Aaron Hayden, that kind of shows how solid Mr. Flint is when you look at Aaron Hayden here. Ground duels won 86th percentile, aerial duels won 96th percentile. Hayden's been doing better in the back for sure. He's had a couple of issues with some ground duels, but in the area near the top of the game is where you'd expect him to be, and he is at 96th percentile. Flint has him covered. So the back line, there may be some questions. I may be missing some of those players. Like I said, there's 8 that have got a lot of minutes, but it may be defense by committee, and the stats from the players who aren't getting a lot of minutes are certainly up there. We'll see how this one goes, but surprising that there may be questions in their back line, and maybe they just haven't been tested enough. We'll see come tomorrow. Goalkeepers, Christy Pym, 28. He started and finished every game. Cup or League, 13 of them. He's back from Peterborough United. He's faced an average of 3 shots per game. That's higher than Mark Howard. He's make twice as many saves, though. I don't expect to see Howard, given how Ogonkwo played. The fact that he was able to get a couple of saves in there that in our last matchup that were jaw-dropping and sort of the thing you need from a goaltender. Not saying that Howard has been bad by any stretch, and John, don't get mad at me, but he's answered the call and done what you expect of a goalie to. It is just take 1 or 2 away, and he did that for us in his first start. So that's the status of things. We're here for the watch party. 11:15 my time is where it's going to be. An evening game in Mansfield. I'm going to have to do it from the office, so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to have to probably be less exuberant than I normally am, and that'll just be how it'll have to be. I'm going in early to do the work thing. So join us for the watch party. So hit the subscribe button if you like this. We're halfway through everything. I'm going to have to get on the one for Crawley Town. I forgot. So I've done the score prediction. I'm going to go with 2-2. I think that there's going to be enough goals in this one. And as far as comparing them to teams, let's start with the food. Mansfield Town, I'm going to compare you to a sticky toffee pudding. Not something that you go into a restaurant expecting and craving, but when you get it, you forget how good it is. And that's sort of Mansfield Town for me. Even though they were higher in the bookie odds, nobody really talking about them. They just sort of go through and get things done. They're that good food that you don't anticipate. As far as who you expect defensive, you're talking about defensive specialists that end up performing well in any league that you're in. I compare them. I always draw the comparisons of in hockey to the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild. Those shutdown teams that are boring games, frustrating games to play in because nothing seems to get going, and that's the beauty of their game, and it works for them. So San Antonio Spurs in basketball, the Pittsburgh Steelers of yore in football, defense, and they say it wins games. So we'll see what happens. Wrexham's going to have to be on the call tomorrow. They're going to have to fill the net. Let's hoping for the best, see where we go. Big week, Mansfield Town, Crawley. It's going to be a good one. So let's get into it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.